everyone, ready to dive into how to build a brand that truly packs a punch.
I'm excited.
We're talking brand identity today. What you need to know to stand out no matter what you're building. And get this, our roadmap is this awesome guide for entrepreneurs, fresh from 2024.
That's recent.
Super relevant, right? Like everyone knows it's a crazy competitive world out there, but that's actually a good thing because a killer brand, that's your secret weapon. It cuts through all the noise, makes you the go-to, the obvious choice. And here's the thing. It's way more than just a fancy logo.
Way more. It's the backbone, the core. A brand's identity. It's what makes people trust it, believe in it. These days, people aren't just buying a product,
I get you.
They're buying into the whole idea a brand represents.
Right, like think Apple. They're not selling just phones. It's that whole feeling like sleek innovation that it just works thing. Okay, so we get the big picture, but how do we, the not yet Apple giants, actually build that kind of power?
This guy nails it. You start with your mission, your vision, and your values. It's like, imagine building a skyscraper. Before the fancy stuff, you got to make sure that foundation is rock solid.
Okay, mission, vision, values. We hear these terms everywhere, but honestly, I bet even some people running their own businesses for years would struggle to explain them clearly. Let's break it down. What's the mission really at its core?
It's your why, the problem you're solving. Not just a fluffy feel-good statement. It's the gut check. What would the world actually be missing if your brand vanished tomorrow?
Whoa, okay, that hits harder than the usual way I hear it. So like if I were making, I don't know, handmade hiking boots, my mission wouldn't just be selling boots. It'd be about helping people connect with nature more deeply.
Exactly. That's the engine driving everything you do. And once you've got that why figured out, you got to look ahead, the vision. Where do you see your brand making an impact in the future?
So the vision is that big, ambitious dream, right? But it can't be just any dream. It has to flow naturally from that core mission somehow.
Exactly. Like our bootmaker, right? Their vision could be becoming the name in sustainable outdoor gear, inspiring a whole generation to explore consciously.
Okay, so vision gives them a direction to head in, guided by the mission. But how do they stay on track while they're growing, facing tough choices, all of that? Values, right? That's where those come in.
Values are your non-negotiables, your internal compass, especially when things get tricky. Imagine our bootmaker gets a deal, cheaper materials, way bigger profits. But it means compromising on their whole eco-friendly thing.
Oof, tough one. Their mission is about deep outdoor experiences. The vision is sustainable gear. Sounds like taking that deal would completely betray their values, even if it's tempting.
And that's the point. Values are what make you stand out. When everyone's just shouting about being the best, values show you walk the walk. They build trust.
All right, so we've got the foundation, mission, vision, values. But a brand also needs to look the part, right? This is where it gets fun, the visuals. And what's more iconic than a great logo? What makes some logos stick in our minds while others just disappear?
This guy makes a brilliant point. A great logo isn't just about being eye-catching. It's got to be adaptable. It needs to work on a website, on social media, maybe even stitched onto those boots.
Yeah, the Nike swoosh, you see it anywhere, any so how do we ensure our logo isn't just trendy, but really captures the brand's essence? Any secret formula?
No magic formula, but there are key principles like understanding brand archetypes. What personality do you want to project? Are you rugged, sophisticated, rebellious?
Brand archetypes. Heard the term, never really dived in. So figure out our archetype, then our logo should visually match that, right?
Exactly. Our bootmaker, all about rugged exploration. Maybe strong lines in the logo, earthy colors, imagery that evokes adventure. But there's more. Color palettes, typography. It's like creating a whole visual language.
I love this part. It's not just slapping a logo on things. It's about every visual detail telling the same story. What are some common mistakes people make with this visual language? We've all seen brands that just feel off somehow.
One big mistake, trying to cram too much in. Color palettes that are all over the place, fonts that clash with the personality. Remember, simplicity and consistency, those are key.
So like our bootmaker wouldn't want neon pink and Comic Sans, no matter how trendy those might be. Got it. But a brand's more than just looks, right? It's got to have a voice. How do we find that unique sound?
You're taking us into brand voice territory, just like your visuals. It's got to be consistent and reflect like our identity. Are you friendly, witty, maybe a bit more formal and expert-like?
That's where it gets tricky, right? Like our bootmaker might be super chill on social media, joking around with followers, but their website that needs a tone that inspires confidence shows off their craftsmanship.
Exactly. You keep the brand personality consistent, but you adjust your tone to fit the platform and context. Website copy, maybe more polished. Social media, more conversational.
Okay, starting to see how it all fits together. Mission, visuals, voice. But how do we actually bring the brand to life? Creating it's one thing, but getting people excited about it, that's another level.
And this guy is spot on. Engagement is key. You can't just exist. You got to interact, build relationships. Social media is the obvious starting point. How can our boot makers stand out there?
It's got to go beyond just pretty pictures of boots, right? I've seen brands do those Ask Me Anything sessions or partner with actual hikers to share their adventures, showing the lifestyle, not just the product.
Exactly. You're showcasing personality, building a community around shared passions. But social media is just one piece. Then there's content marketing, providing real value, becoming the go-to source for your audience.
So instead of just yelling, buy our bootmaker could write blog posts about trail maintenance, videos on choosing the right fit, attracting people with helpful info, not just sales pitches.
Content can be blog posts, videos, infographics, even podcasts. The key is catering to your audience's interests, becoming that trusted voice they turn to.
Makes total sense, but gotta be honest, sometimes I feel like brands are just guessing at what their audience wants. How do we get real insights, not just assumptions?
Customer feedback. Encourage reviews, run surveys, pay attention to comments. It's market research, straight from the source. What are people loving? What's frustrating them?
So it's not just collecting data, it's actually acting on it, showing you're listening. Which brings us to the ultimate goal, brand loyalty. We've talked looks, voice, engagement, but how do we make people choose our brand over and over again?
That's the million-dollar question. There's no quick fix. It's about building genuine relationships over time. Exceptional customer service is huge. Every interaction reinforces your brand image.
Like if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, even if the food's amazing, you might not go back. Good service makes a big difference. What else builds that gotta have it loyalty?
Consistency. If you're all about high quality, like our bootmaker, every single pair has to deliver on that promise. Inconsistency destroys trust. And never underestimate authenticity. People crave the real deal.
So our bootmaker can't suddenly start selling cheap flip-flops just because it's summer? I'd feel totally off-brand. Speaking of alignment, we've covered a lot today. Mission to loyalty. Wow. What's next? Where do we go from here?
Here's something to chew on. What's your unique value proposition? It's not enough to be good. You got to have that special something that makes you different. Keep asking yourself that question as you build.
I love that. It's a constant challenge, not a one-time answer. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into building strong brand identity. We've covered some awesome strategies, but the real work starts now applying this to your own brand. Stay tuned for part 2, where we go even deeper.
Picking up where we left off, brand loyalty. It's fascinating, right? It's not just getting someone to buy your product once.
Right.
It's creating a bond so strong that they choose you, even when there are other options out there.
Totally. It's that feeling when you find a brand that just gets you. You trust them. You believe in what they stand for. You're almost part of their journey, you know?
I know what you mean.
But how do you create that deep sense of trust, that loyalty? Sometimes it feels like magic. Can we break it down, make it actionable?
It all comes back to authenticity. We touched on it earlier, but it's so important. People can spot a fake a mile away. Especially these days when everyone's trying so hard to be on brand all the time.
Yeah, you can almost sense that desperation. When a brand's trying to be something, it's not. It's just inauthentic. But how do we translate that into something real, something we can actually build into our strategy?
It starts with aligning your actions with your words. Remember those values we talked about, those non-negotiables that guide your decisions.
Right.
Your actions have to reflect those values every step of the way.
So it's not enough to have a nice mission statement on your website.
Nope.
You got to live it every single day in every choice you make. Like that sustainable clothing company we mentioned. If they're all about being eco-conscious, but then, I don't know, they get caught using unethical labor practices, that hypocrisy totally destroys any trust they built.
Exactly. Authenticity means walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Being consistent in everything you do, from how you source materials to how you treat your employees.
So if our bootmaker is all about craftsmanship and quality, they can't cut corners just to save a buck. Every stitch, every little detail has to reflect that commitment to excellence.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And it goes beyond just the product itself, right? It's got to be every single touch point with the brand.
Absolutely. Your website, your social media, how you handle customer service, even the packaging your products come in, every single detail feeds into how people see your brand.
Okay, so let's say you're a high-end coffee brand. You want to project that image of sophistication, sustainability. Your website, maybe it's got these stunning photos of coffee farms, sleek packaging designs, even some content about like the art of brewing coffee.
And then someone walks into your cafe, they're greeted by baristas who really know their stuff, can talk about different roasts, brewing methods, the smell of fresh coffee beans everywhere, maybe some smooth jazz playing in the background.
I'm getting the vibe. It's like you're creating the whole experience. It's not just selling a cup of coffee. It's selling a feeling, a lifestyle.
And that feeling, that lifestyle, it has to be genuine. You have to truly believe in what you're offering because that passion, that authenticity, it's contagious. It draws people in, makes them want to be part of your world.
Totally. But before we go too far creating these amazing experiences, we got to make sure we're actually creating something people want, right? How do we get inside our target audience's heads and understand what they're looking for?
That's where good old market research comes in. And it's not just basic demographics, age, gender, location.
Hmm.
It's understanding your audience's values, their lifestyles, what they aspire to.
It's like, what are they passionate about? What problems are they trying to solve? What keeps them up at night? What makes them happy?
Exactly. The better you understand your audience, the better you can create a brand that really connects with them. And one of the most powerful ways to create that connection is through storytelling.
Ooh, I love a good story. Tell me more.
Every brand has a story to tell. Think about your origin story. What inspired you to start this business? What challenges did you face? What values are at the heart of your mission?
It's like giving your brand a personality, a voice that people can actually connect with.
Precisely. And stories make information stick. Think about those iconic brands. Nike, their story is about empowering athletes. Patagonia, it's about protecting the environment.
It's more than just marketing. It's woven into who they are. Gives people a reason to believe, a reason to care. But how do we find our story? Some brands have these epic, world-changing narratives. Others feel more, everyday.
You don't need some groundbreaking save the world story to be compelling. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the simplest ones, the ones that come from genuine passion.
So for our bootmaker, maybe the story is about their grandfather, who was a cobbler, and how they were inspired by his dedication to craftsmanship. Or maybe it's about their own journey, discovering how powerful it is to spend time in nature.
There you go. It's finding what makes you unique and sharing it in a way that resonates.
Finding the heart of your brand and letting it shine through. But how do we make sure our story is heard? In a world that's already overflowing with content, it's easy to get lost in the noise.
That's the challenge. But again, it comes back to understanding your audience, choosing the right ways to reach them.
So if our bootmaker's audience is mainly on Instagram, they might focus on visual stories, reels, showcasing their style, their craftsmanship. But if they're more into long-form stuff, maybe they start a blog or even a podcast.
Exactly. It's being strategic, intentional, and creative, finding ways to stand out, grab attention.
So maybe they make a video series where they visit different national parks, talk about the trails, the history, or partner with an influencer who embodies their values like adventure and sustainability.
The goal is to be memorable, to make content people will want to share, talk about.
It's not just broadcasting your message, it's sparking conversations, building connections.
You got it. It's creating a buzz, generating excitement. Think about Apple, the way they build anticipation before a new product. Little teasers, just enough info to get people curious.
Yeah. By the time the product's actually out, people are lining up to get it.
Exactly. That's the power of a strong brand. It's like creating a movement, a community of people who believe in what you believe in.
And it's a journey that never really ends, right? A brand has to keep evolving, adapting to its audience, to how the market changes.
Absolutely. The world of branding is always shifting. What works today might not work tomorrow. You got to stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected to your people.
Like a dance almost. You're constantly adapting, responding, finding that rhythm together.
I like that. And just like in a dance, there's a certain amount of trust involved. You have to let go of control a bit, embrace the unexpected, be open to feedback, to change.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about being authentic, adaptable, and willing to learn and grow.
That's where the magic happens. When you're open to evolving, you create a brand that's not just resilient, but truly captivating.
This has been so insightful. We've gone from the core values to the art of storytelling, but we've just scratched the surface of this whole world of branding. I'm feeling pumped, ready to tackle building a brand that truly stands out. But before we wrap up part two, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? What's the one thing they should keep in mind on their brand building adventures?
Remember, it's not about following a formula or copying someone else. It's about finding your own voice, expressing it authentically, connecting with your audience, building a community around shared values and passions.
Love it. Be brave enough to be yourself even when the world's telling you to be someone else. What a powerful message. We'll be back for part three, where we'll dive even deeper into what makes a brand truly unforgettable. It's funny, as we've been talking about all this, building these strong brands, being authentic, it kind of makes me think about our own personal journeys, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we're all trying to figure out our own personal brand in a way.
I love that parallel because in a world where We're constantly bombarded with messages about who we should be, how we should live. It's
Right.
so easy to lose sight of our true selves.
Totally. Like you're scrolling through social media, seeing everyone's perfectly curated lives. It makes you compare yourself, feel like you're not enough. But just like a brand needs to stand out, we got to embrace what makes us unique. So how do we do that? How do we tune out the noise and reconnect with like our own brand essences?
It starts with self-awareness, taking the time to really think about our values, passions, what we're good at, what we struggle with, asking those big questions
What are those questions?
like, what do I truly care about? What brings me joy? What kind of impact do I want to have on the world?
It's that classic advice, right? Know thyself. But it's not just surface stuff. It's about understanding what really drives us, motivates us.
Exactly. It's about figuring out our core values, those principles that guide our decisions, how we interact with the world. Just like a brand has to be clear about its values, we do too.
Because when you're living in line with those values, everything feels right somehow.
I agree.
There's that sense of purpose, authenticity, being true to yourself.
And, just like a strong brand attracts loyal customers, an authentic person attracts genuine connections. When you're being yourself, no masks or pretending, you give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, it's that magnetic energy. When you meet someone who's totally comfortable with who they are, you're just drawn to them. But being our true selves, it's not always easy, especially with all the pressure to fit in. How do we stay grounded, resist putting on that fake persona?
Takes courage. Being okay with not being liked by everyone, standing out, embracing those imperfections, and surrounding yourself with people who support that, who encourage you to be you.
Finding your tribe, people who love your quirks and push you to be your best self. This whole conversation has been such a good reminder that these branding ideas, they're not just for businesses.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's for all of us figuring out how to navigate the world.
Totally. Whether you're building a brand or building a life, it comes down to those core things: authenticity, connection, creating something that truly resonates.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into branding. We've covered the strategies, the psychology, even how it connects to our own lives. Hopefully, you've all picked up some valuable insights, the things you can use to build your own brand and even just navigate your own journey. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being genuine, being brave, and embracing the process